Welcome to the Inphamus Hour Live. I'm your host, the Inphamus Amadeuz, all social media platforms at the Inphamus Amadeuz. And in case you've been on Mars or Pluto or Jupiter or whatever planet you came from, the Inphamus Hour is the hottest podcast / radio show in the country every single Thursday, 9 p.m. EST, Boom Bap Nation. We bring an amazing experience where we bring legendary artists to the Boom Bap Nation platform. And as always, I have my right hand, my compadre, who's in the building, Tone Vieira. What's up?
Yo, what up, Inf? Man, you weren't kidding when you said this is the best podcast. Listen, the caliber of people you're able to pull on this show is crazy. It just goes to show the amount of years you've put in the game and the amount of respect you have by, all these dudes in hip hop. And today's guest is no exception to that. It's probably the biggest name we've had in a while.
Yeah, that is a fact. So today's guest on the right side needs no introduction. He is your favorite rapper's favorite rapper, favorite producer's favorite producer. Been active since '88. We're going to cover I'm the King all the way down to the rear view. I'm sure there's some other tracks that we don't know about that we're going to tap in. Diamond D, welcome to the Inphamus Hour.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to be here, Inf. No doubt.
Yeah, most definitely. So what is different about the rear view radio run as opposed to some of the albums you've had? Obviously, we're in a different time. We've been dealing with COVID. We've been dealing with social media. So how is this experience different than other projects you put out?
The radio run, it's not really different, as far as, moving around and promoting the album. But it seems like for the new album, for the rear view, I'm just a little more focused. Mm-hmm. I'm moving around. I don't do the radio with a whole entourage. I'm more business right now at this point. So I would just say the focus is a little more laser sharp at this point.
Now, you gave a great description as to why you titled the album The Rear View. You say you've been working with a lot of new artists on this one.
Right.
Who are some of the new artists that you got on this album?
My man Ashton Martin. He's from out of Atlanta. Of course, Westside Gun, Stacey Epps. My brother KP, he's another new artist. And, I always got to have an OG on there, so I snatched up my man Paz the News from De La Soul.
Okay. That was a huge feature.
We all know, Inf knows, Paz, he don't do too many guest features for people. So, I was lucky enough to snatch that up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. When fans watch this interview and they're gonna go to the catalog, they're gonna, for the new fans, they'll start at Rear View and they'll go back. But the Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop
turns 30
project, next
month.
But it's not on the DSPs. Is there a specific reason why it's not on Apple Music, or is it listed differently?
It's on there, but people look under Diamond D. Mm-hmm. Diamond D is not credited to that album.
Is there a specific
Diamond
reason
and
why?
Psychotic Neurotics. Mm-hmm. So if you look under Diamond and Psychotic Neurotics, boom, you'll find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so fans, make sure you.
A lot of people ask me that. You're like, yo, why I can't find Stunts and Blunts? And I ask them, well, what name did you search? They say Diamond D. I go, Diamond D's not on that album. That album not credited to Diamond D. It's credit to Diamond and Psychotic Neurotics. So for all the fans out there looking for it, put in Diamond and Psychotic Neurotics, and Stunts Blunt should come up.
Mm. So I got a question out of straight curiosity, right? Like, I'm sure you get hit up a lot by, especially newer artists, to work with you. Is there like a process you have in how you select who you want to work with, or do you just take anybody's inquiry and say, all right, we can work together to make some magic happen?
Nah, I mean, I'm still a fan. I'm still a fan of the bar work. If your bars are up and where they need to be, and I see something special in you, I'll gravitate towards you. The same thing for artists who looking for production. I'm not just going to take the money. I want to see how good your skills are. At this point, you can't just attach your name to anything. That's one of the things I learned in this business. Don't just jump to attach your name to anything. Try to attach yourself to something of substance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of the fans that tap in as far as like them actually digging in the crates, like no pun intended, they remember the Ultimate Force project, obviously. And then we spoke a little bit about the I'm the King record. But what was hip hop like previous to that for you personally, previous to '88?
I'm in high school, you know what I mean? So, dancing a lot, I was a big fan of Slick Rick, Big Daddy Kane, Eric B. and Rakim. I was just immersed in the culture. I was also doing a little bit of graffiti. You know what I mean? If you came up in the 80s, like, you did a little bit of everything. Either you DJ'd or you rhymed or you did both, or you did the human beatbox, and you did the electric boogie. When you that young, you just immersed in the culture. You know what I mean? So, of course, I always wanted to make records, but at that time, I was just focused on being a DJ. So that's what I was doing, like, in the 80s, mid to late 80s, I was a DJ. My projects, Forest Projects, up in the South Bronx. And that was my gateway into it. Yeah.
And I recently saw this article. It was talking about Dr. Dre over the pandemic, recorded over 240 songs.
Yeah, I saw that. Crazy.
Yeah.
Focused.
Nah, I just got to ask you flat out. You competing with that? Are you doing those kind of numbers as well?
I'm not doing those kind of numbers. You know what I mean? I didn't record 200 songs over the pandemic, but I did do a lot of work. I produced the Gotham album for Talib Kweli. And and also during the pandemic, I was starting to gather some of the beats that you hear now on the Real View album. You know what I mean? So I was still proactive.
So quick follow up: any of the beats on this album, would you say that you had something maybe from the '90s that you shelved and you repurposed a little bit, or it was all fresh beats?
Yeah, all fresh beats. Even the ones that sound like that era. Everything is new.
Yeah, I'm gonna have actually Nikki D on the show, and I believe that she was the first.
Shout out to Nikki.
Yeah, she was on the Apache joint. You produced one record on there. She's
Right.
the first hip hop female artist that was signed to Def Jam, and we ultimately we connected on social media, so we have like a lot of conversations about who was the first. Like you got Coke LaRock, you got Busy B, he was a guy. But in your opinion, where do you think the culture of hip hop actually started? Obviously, we know the famous story, right? Kool Herc and Coke LaRock.
Right.
But previous to that, was there an emerging hip hop?
Previous
culture?
to Herc?
Yeah, previous.
No, I don't think so. Herc was the first one to play break beats, if you will. He was the first one to do that. From what I was told, he couldn't, according to a lot of people who were there back then, he didn't know how to cut on time. He would just throw the record on. Yep. And then find a part, just throw it on, But when Flash came around, Flash figured out how to keep the break beat going on time.
Make it technical.
Make it like a continuous loop. And Bambaata's the one who pulled it all together. So that's where I feel hip hop started. It was a big debate online about did Jamaicans start it. Did blacks and Latino people start it? Herc is from Jamaica, right? So, we give him that. He's the founder of hip hop. But it's not like Jamaicans were at hip hop jams toasting on the mic, shit like that. The idea of zeroing in on the break part of the record, we can attribute that to Herc. But Flash is the one who made it seem seamless. So, to answer that question, I think it's a little bit of all three. A little bit of Jamaican, a little bit of black and Latinos. But, in the South Bronx back then, there weren't too many Jamaicans. They were mainly based in the North Bronx, up around White Plains Road. That's just facts. So
why do you think amongst the 70s hip hop community there's so much confusion, right? Because depending on who you ask, everyone has different opinions, right? So if you're from the Rosedale section, they say Disco King Mario. If you're from this section, they say Flash. If you're from High Bridge, it's Herc. So what do you think the miscommunication happens?
It's not really no miscommunication. Herc was the first one. He's credited with being the first one. Mario, who had an incredible sound system that rivaled Herc's, maybe even better. But from what it was taught to me, Mario was more disco based. He was more of a disco DJ, but he also played breaks. Mario would let Bambaata use his equipment before Bam even acquired his own. So it's tricky. and then a few years later, Flash comes up. So, but I hear different stories too, so it's crazy. But it's definitely those three. Four rather. Yeah. You include Mario, as we should.
On that same thought about the early pioneers, you recently did an interview on Rock the Bells with Grandmaster Caz and Sha Rock.
Dope.
Now I remember when I had approached them to see if they'd have any interest in interviewing with you. It was a definite hell yeah from them.
Right.
And how does it make you feel to know that, like, people of their pedigree, Sha Rock being the first female MC and Grandmaster Caz being credited as one of the original pioneers.
Any hip hop artist from my era, and maybe even after mine, to have a pioneer, show you love like that, and just want to do the interview. It's the equivalent of a new rock artist being okayed by the Rolling Stones, if you will. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So in this genre of music, everybody wants to be respected, by the people who came before them. You know what I mean? So for Grandmaster Caz and Sha Rock to do that, that was definitely 100% all love. And, I really appreciated that, and I told them that when I saw them the other day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's no way we can not have you here without asking, Big L, Big Pun questions. And I kind of feel like when we talk about the top MCs, them names get lost in the conversation, primarily because of catalog. I mean, Big L had more records, obviously, than Pun. Right. But, Pun may have not had enough records. When it comes to the Hispanic hip-hop community, we definitely respect it. But what do you think are the similarities and differences between Pun and Big L? And do you think New York hip-hop would be different had they've not had passed away?
I think it definitely would have been different when you look at the amount of accolades they received, with only 1 or 2 albums. You know what I mean? Same thing with Biggie. If all 3 of them were still here, the landscape would definitely be different. And I think hip hop as a whole suffered from their losses. All incredible lyricists, just definitely going too soon.
Yeah.
Who's like an artist outside of New York that you really gravitated towards, like their sound and their overall like catalog?
Outside of New York?
Yeah.
Well, historically, the Licks, okay. Cypress Hills, Razzcazz,
okay,
Twister. Got me on the spot here, but
yeah. No, somebody that you just heard and you were like, yo, I would love to work with that person.
Oh, like that. What's this dude's name? He got a new song out called Lizzo. Is it Monroe Brown or Morris Brown? I don't know. But the song is called Lizzo. It's a new single. He got like 3 million streams. 3 million streams. I forgot his name, but I definitely want to work with him. I forgot the brother's name. But the song is called Lizzo.
Lizzo.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we have like these conversations about the state of hip hop, I find that particularly New York people are aggravated, right? Because there's multiple reasons. One, hip hop started here. It seems like Southern hip hop has a dominance, and 2, New York radio doesn't play New York artists. In your experience in a 30-year span, is there a particular or specific reason why, in your opinion, you think that this happened?
I don't know why New York radio doesn't play New York radio. I can see why maybe other cities don't, because motherfuckers in New York were arrogant. We were hard on the West Coast, we were hard on the South, we were hard on the Midwest, we were hard on anybody outside of New York. And about karma, shit came back and bit New York in the ass. So I would attribute that to some of it. New York, we were haters, and since it started here, so niggas had chips on their shoulders. I don't know why some New York DJs don't support it. I feel you should always support your own, but keep the caliber and the quality of the hip hop alive. Don't just like, I'm not just going to fuck with somebody because they from New York. That don't make no motherfucking sense. You know, you got to have some talent. You know what I mean? So that would be my answer.
Yeah, but why do you think specifically that New York artists haven't been receptive? Not all New York artists, for example, like you did the remix to the Outkast joint, the Southern Playeristic,
right.
You know, and you've worked with multiple artists, the Licks. I mean,
right.
You have some Tupac stories that we spoke about at SiriusXM. But why do you think New York artists weren't receptive to Southern hip hop, and ultimately looking back 20 years down the line, was that a mistake?
Closed-minded. You know, the way a motherfucker might talk, the accent, the slang words, how they dress, you know, all of those things, you know, I think attributed to it. You know, like, you know, just for the most part, just keep it a buck. New York hated on everybody. You know, after NWA, that kind of broke through the West Coast. You know, the South came a little later, but you know, like I said, it started here, so motherfuckers have chips on their shoulders. And that's just my truth. That's how I saw it.
What could have been done differently? Could it have been like just because the New York artists weren't embracing enough, or is it just like you said, the arrogance?
Maybe. So it just showed the other parts of the country. Well, you know, fuck New York. We gonna do us. If New York get it, they get it. If they don't, fuck them. You know what I mean? And you know, I'm from New York, and you know, I can say that honestly. You know, I really think that's what happened. Yeah. Nobody, you know, I'm sure it's not no one answer, but arrogance. Arrogance.
Yeah.
Nobody likes an arrogant motherfucker. You know what I mean? So if you got a whole state that's arrogant, just New York City specifically. You know, even Griselda movement. You know, it took a while for Buffalo to break. You know what I mean? When you look how old hip hop is, you know, so I just think it was just the arrogance of hip hop starting here. You know?
Yeah, but most definitely. This is Inphamus Hour Live. I'm your host, the infamous Amadeuz. Diamond D is here. We are scanning the chat right now, actively looking for questions. Oftentimes, we have top 5 MC conversations. This happens multiple times a year. I've literally been thrown in the middle of this. But in your opinion, who is the greatest lyricist you've ever heard? Personally. Like, who was the guy that was undoubtedly like, this is the greatest rap I've ever heard?
I would put Big Pun up there.
Major Killer.
I would put Big Pun up there. It's just, you know, the delivery, the flow, the cadence. You know, he had everything. You know, so, you know, it's a lot. But, you know, if I had to grab one off top at this second, I would say Big Pun.
Do you have a story of working with him in the actual studio? Like, can you tell us about, like, his process?
One story I had, you know, Big Pun, when I was recording the second album, Hatred, Passions, and Infidelity, Pun came in and he laid a verse down on the joint. And I was supposed to go back to it, but then, you know, he passed away. So I still have that verse. I gotta just, it's on it, you know, back then they had the 2-inch reels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I gotta pull that reel out and try to dump it over, you know, digitally to Pro Tools or Logic. But he came in there, went in the booth, one take, he smashed it. And I wanted to get Big L on there, but after he passed away, I never went back to it. But I still have that verse, definitely.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get to hear that sometime soon. Here in the Inphamus Hour, we have a top 5 segment. We have top 5 MCs, rappers, chicken wings, all types of different things. So my question for you, and listen, this is truly on the spot. And I saw a top 5 producer thing that you were talking about, and people were going crazy. I see Pete Rocker there, but let's take it one step further. Top 5 producers with bars all time. Top 5 producers that can rap.
Diamond. Now let me stop. Shout out to my man Dylon. All right. Producers who spit. Wow. Who write their own bars. Okay.
Let's be clear. A lot of them don't write their own shit.
Yeah, and ain't nothing wrong with that. If you got a team behind you and somebody's better with the pen, and let them dribble for you.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. This is my today's answer because it varies.
Changes, yeah.
Best producers who rhyme, that write their own shit. As far as I'm concerned, I like Knots. I like his bars. I like his bars.
Okay.
I like Jay Dilla's bars when he was still here. I gotta put Grand Puba Maxwell in that conversation.
Okay.
Because he produced the bulk of the Brand Nubian album. He doesn't even really get the credit. 3.
It's tough, isn't it? So many.
What would you consider Lord Finesse? More of an MC than a
I would
producer?
consider him a rapper that knew how to make beats.
Okay.
Because he's super polished.
Right.
In my opinion.
Right.
As opposed to someone like Havoc is like
Right.
You could tell he was a producer and then he learned how to rap along the way.
I definitely would add Havoc to that. I would add Havoc to that, and Large Professor.
Large Professor, top 5.
No doubt.
That was a great list.
That was a super amazing list. I mean, that was super dope.
Right.
So as far as Bronx hip hop, right? Because Bronx created hip hop, right? And the sound in hip hop has changed completely. Like you got guys like A Boogie, you got Lil TJ. I mean, you have these younger artists. Do you think that the OGs in general didn't do their due diligence as far as installing the original principles of hip hop into the younger generation? It's almost like, back in the day, like the OGs would put you on Al Green and Earth, Wind and Fire and, and they would make sure like, yo, this ain't rap, go back. Do you think that maybe the OGs missed a step?
I don't know if it was really the OG's responsibility. I mean, you can steer someone, but ultimately a person has to want to learn.
Yeah.
And some artists are open to that and other artists just want to do something new and do it their own way. So, that there is no right or wrong to it. But to answer your question, I don't think it was the responsibility of OGs to go, listen, you should only sound like this. I think it's the responsibility of OGs to, say, well, there's 5 elements. If anything, just teach the youth the 5 elements of hip hop. Like you can't really dictate how someone should spit or how someone should make a beat. All you can do is just offer your guidance and your opinions, and it's up to the individual whether they receive it or not.
Ultimately,
correct.
What would you do differently? Like now at this point, we have like the internet, and which I feel like people always say like 2004 was that time where like hip hop stopped being what it was.
Really?
That's when things kind of like shifted a little bit.
Why 2004?
Around that time is when the internet rose really high. It was like the time that YouTube really became like a household thing.
I mean, the internet probably just broadened it more. At one time, if we lived in New York, we had all the new gear, all the new clothing, and it wasn't until Yo MTV Raps came along where the rest of the country kind of caught up to saw how we was dressing, the lingo, the whole thing. So I think the internet just broadened that out, and it's actually easier now, to get yourself heard. When I was coming up, there was no internet, there was no social media, so you had to go out there and touch the streets and create your own buzz, create your own movement. Whereas now you can just post a bunch of videos and get about 100,000 followers if you're savvy enough. So I think the internet, if anything, it enhanced it. I wouldn't say it diminished it, in my opinion.
It's kind of here at the Inphamus Hour and Boom Bap Nation, we have like a very like 35 to 55 collar fan base that they work every day. And the people that are watching this right now, a lot of them, instead of going to listen to the rear view, they would go back into the catalog. And it's almost like hip hop fans have been programmed that way, right? So instead of listening to, West Side, Nas' new joint with who's Hit Boy, they
Right.
would go back to Illmatic or they would go back to I Am. In your opinion, how do we change that? How do we get people to actually reconnect the same way they did in the 90s to the new content that's coming out?
It's all in the music. If you, don't matter what era you came from, 90s, 2000s, 2010, if the music is what it's supposed to be, it's going to resonate. Mm-hmm. But I do agree that, a lot of old heads, they want to go back to their classic. There's nothing wrong with that. Music reminds you of different things. It can remind you of a good time in your life or a bad time in your life. A lot of people gravitate toward music that was big in their teens because it reminds them of being in their teens.
Yeah, it's almost like going backwards or holding on to a certain part of your life.
It's the same thing with R&B. If I put on a Marvin Gaye record, it's going take me back to my childhood. If I listen to Tank, I'm thinking about smashing somebody tomorrow night. So the music it definitely guides you, and that's my reason why I think people are more nostalgic. But that's part of the reason why I named my album The Real View. Whatever you did in the past, honor it, respect it. Your past is what made you. Always be proud of your accomplishments, whatever you've done, but don't live in the past. Always look forward. Always look to the next thing. I'm proud of my past, but I don't live in it. You know what I mean? So that's just my personal view on it.
Yeah. That's dope. And The Rear View is definitely like a polished, great piece of work.
Thank you.
I got to listen to some of the songs. Amazing. And we're gonna keep playing them, on the radio. But let's say somebody was new to learning about you. Well, how would you preface setting up with them and letting them listen to your album? What would you tell them right before they're about to press play?
I wouldn't say nothing to them. Just play the music.
Just press the play
Play
button.
the music. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Play the music. You can give somebody a fucking speech. If the shit is trash, they're gonna be like, "Fam said all that for this bullshit." Just press play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's definitely. So we have this new project out now, The Rear View. It is out now. What can the fans expect when they go listen to this album? Are they getting the traditional Diamond D sound?
The bars are sharp.
Okay.
Witty, clever.
Sure.
All the beats are bang. I'm a boom bap artist. You know what I mean? True blue boom bap artist. So I went in the studio knowing that, my album probably wouldn't get, any spins or any power stations or, any power urban stations. It's not a trap joint on there. It's not a drill joint on there. And I like both of those genres. But I would never alienate the people who've been rocking with me this long. Just to jump into something new. You know what I mean? So if anybody been fucking with me, anybody familiar with my work, especially the last 3 joints, the D.I.T.C album, the D.I.T.C 2, the Gotham album that I put out last year with Talib Kweli, if you're familiar with all 3 of those, then you know what to expect on the Rear View. But the difference with the Rear View is I'm front and center, whereas those last 3 albums, I was like occasional. I was more focused on being a producer. You know what I mean? Which is still my first love. So,
yeah. If you can go back in your catalog, for example, and for a new Diamond D fan, right? So like I remember like you did some joints for like Scientific and like a bunch of like classic joints.
Yeah. We were on the same label at one time, Chemistry Records. Ed O.G., myself, Scientific, but go ahead.
Yeah. But so if you can go back and let's say a fan wanted to dig in the crates and they wanted to find like a true Diamond D production record, right? Like what song would that be?
Probably Sally Got a One Track Mind. Sally Got a One Track Mind, Best Kept Secret, Freestyle, That's That Shit. Anything from the Stunts Blunts album. After that, you can go into Punk Jump Up to Get Beat Down. The Lord Finesse joints I did, the Digging in the Crates joints, the Alcoholics, Exhibit, House of Pain. You can revisit all of those joints. And but if I had to tell somebody to pick one record that would summarize me, it would be Superman.
Superman?
Yeah, which was on the D.I.T.C album. That's one of my favorite joints. And, I love performing it on stage. That's one of my favorite joints right there, Superman.
I'm gonna make sure to check that one out. Diamond D, one last question from me. And this is a big question, all right? When you were with West Side Gun, who was wearing more jewelry, you or him?
Oh, I think West got me.
Oh man,
yeah, West got me. Shouts out to West Side Gun.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, often fans when they watch guys like you and AG and Lord Finesse and even Joe to a certain extent,
right?
They always have this question like why we didn't get more D.I.T.C albums, like official albums. Obviously, we have mixtape joints, we have production and crossover records. What is the reason why we didn't actually get more like full group records? Maybe too many people in the group, maybe label situations. What was the
maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And everybody doing their own thing. So I'm still team D.I.T.C, but again, I'm always looking forward to the next thing. So there is no one answer, but if it happens again, I would embrace it.
Yeah. Most definitely. Final question to the fans that are watching right now on Boom Bap Nation of the Inphamus Hour. New album out, The Rear View. Talk about it, and why should the fans tap into this project?
Well, if you like boom bap, you know what I mean? No watered down hip hop, just straight hard beats, hard rhymes. Definitely check for The Rear View. I got some of the top producers on there with me. My man D.I.T.C, my man Focus works with Dr. Dre often. My man Brady Beats, my man Drug Beats, my man Lynn Funk from down in VA. They produced 6 songs. The other 7 I produced. But if you listen to the album as a whole, it flows fluid. You know what I mean? So you wouldn't think that it had 6 additional producers on there and me. So it's actually 7 producers altogether if you add me. But the album has like a good flow, a good theme to it, where all the songs just go right into each other. For a lot of new artists, I want to say sequencing is very important. How you sequence your album, you know what I mean? So I feel it's one of my best albums, if not my best album. I'm definitely in a better lyrical space than I've ever been in. You know what I mean? And for the fans who like boom bap hip hop, definitely check out The Rear View. All right,
make sure you tap into The Rear View. Now, final question: where do you think the future of hip hop music is going? Like for me personally, I think lo-fi specifically because it has,
what's the difference between lo-fi and boom bap in your opinion?
I think it depends because lo-fi is originally study music and the drums were originally like trap.
Okay.
Initially, right? So it was like a slower drum pace, and then it's almost like they took like the boom bap drums and made chill hop.
It remind me of like some of Dilla beats.
Some of Dilla beats. But if you actually listen to lo-fi, like just lo-fi specifically, it's only like one drum, one snare. It's like a very simplistic pattern. And then they created chill hop, which is kind of like your beats back in the day. They just kind of just named it. But where do you think ultimately, like final question, hip hop is going? What is the future of hip hop? Is it the robotic sound? We just saw somebody get signed to Capitol Records who was an AI, right? For example, right?
That went left real quick.
But the fans, and actually have some content coming. Is the fans should have expected that? I mean, they've been doing robotic voices since 2008. So what do you think? The labels are going to come and get a robotic person?
For a white AR to be saying nigga this and nigga that and nigga that.
Yeah.
Even Capitol Records say, hey, we apologize. We respect the sensitivity of the African American community. I think that's where, people were like, nah, we can't do this. You know what I mean? We can't do this. So if it does happen down the line with the robotics, I don't know. It's crazy, but I am glad that they got dude up out of there. And I don't know what the hell Capitol Records was. I don't know what the hell Capitol Records was thinking about. You know what I mean? So, and then I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the drill movement.
You like it? Yeah.
Yeah, I like that shit. No doubt, definitely.
All right, that's super dope. Diamond D on the Inphamus Hour. New album out now called The Rear View. Tone Vieira, where they can find you, where they can listen to you on the radio.
I'm on all platforms at tone.viera, tone.viera, Monday through Fridays on Shade 45 and Rock the Bells.
For sure. Diamond D, social media.
Diamond D.I.T.C, one word, Diamond D.I.T.C.
Of course. And of course, I'm the Inphamus Amadeuz, Sirius XM, Shade 45 every single Thursday. Noon EST for the new hip-hop picks and 3 p.m. EST for the throwback classics. And of course, subscribe to the Inphamus Hour. Follow Boom Bap Nation. I got Isness here, man. Fucking Isness is in the building. Oh. He's in the cut, man. This guy's the mastermind and the architect of all Boom Bap that's going down on social media. Till next time, stay safe, stay COVID-19 free, and stop fucking these bitches raw. You get monkeypox, right? See you later.